Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Plant Powered People podcast with your hosts, Michelle Kane
and Tony Okamoto.
We are always looking out for people who are just stepping into being vegan. I think it's an extra hard time, but also an extra exciting time. And I know it's sort of most helpful to bring people on the podcast who are just facing a lot of the most difficult struggles, coming out to their family and friends and figuring out how to eat out and what to eat and where to shop and how to keep it affordable, all of those things. And so that's why we're really excited to bring on our guests today. We're bringing on Liam and Ollie, two longtime friends over in the UK who have been longtime meat eaters and decided to go fully vegan for 1 month, but it's actually now been 6 weeks, which is pretty cool. And they're still going strong. And we're going to talk to them about what their experience has been like at this early stage of totally stepping into a brand new diet. They've had totally different approaches, and they share a lot of tips that we hope will be helpful and inspiring for you.
We know that it can just be a challenge in general to change your eating habits, but when you are totally unfamiliar with what vegan even means, I feel like it's even harder. But I know that changing your food habits in general can be really challenging, especially around the holidays, especially when you have a family who's not plant-based. So I am really excited about this episode. I think that they both have a really friendly and upbeat attitude, and I'm excited to bring them on.
But before we jump in, we want to say a big thank you to our sponsors of this episode, Caraway and Gaiam. Now, whether you're brand new to vegan living, just stepping in, or longtime vegan, one thing is certain, and that's having cookware and kitchen equipment that really work and make it easy and fun for you to cook is a huge help and a huge win. And that is why I've been absolutely loving Caraway. Caraway Home makes kitchenware, non-toxic cookware and bakeware collections that are designed for the modern home, and they feature a chemical-free ceramic coating so that food can be prepared with the peace of mind that no hard-to-pronounce compounds or chemicals will leach into your food, your healthy ingredients. And that ceramic coating is totally non-stick. So I struggled cooking tofu for like the first 10 years of being vegan. It always stuck to the pan. And yes, I could just add more oil or try different tactics, but ultimately I ended up switching to a non-stick pan that was made with chemicals. And it made cooking so much easier. I was just like, oh, well, this is life. There's chemicals involved. But friends, I recently found Caraway. I adore them. It is totally non-toxic. It's healthy, and the nonstick works so beautifully. It's easy to clean, all the good stuff. So you've got to check them out. You can visit caraway.com. You can visit carawayhome.com/plant-powered-kitchen. And you can actually take advantage of the limited time offer for 10% off your purchase that they're offering exclusively for our listeners of the Plant Powered People podcast. So again, carawayhome.com/plant-powered-kitchen, and you can use the code plant-powered-kitchen at checkout.
We also want to thank our sponsor, Gaiam, who has been helping us prioritize our wellness. They've been leaders in the fitness industry for over 30 years and have been making working out, doing yoga, practicing meditation in the comfort of your own home easy and accessible. We also appreciate what they stand for. On their website, it says, at Gaiam, we believe that by nurturing, protecting, and respecting the earth and everyone and everything that exists here, we enrich our own lives and those of future generations. Michelle and I couldn't agree more. Besides being an amazing company, I've also personally benefited from their resistance bands and weights and high quality yoga mats, jump ropes, and have really incorporated fitness into my life without having to go to the gym or go running outside. And I really appreciate that because it makes it so much easier to take a break from work and get some exercise in. Their products are great. Whether you're looking to practice mindfulness or work on your cardio, there's something for everyone's wellness journey on their website, and you can check them out at gaiam.com. Thank you again to our sponsors. Now on to our episode. Hi, Liam and Ollie. Welcome to the Plant Powered People podcast.
Thank you for having us on this.
We are so excited to have you. Michelle actually knows you because she was on your podcast.
Yeah, we had a great chat when you guys were first exploring the vegan lifestyle and like what it is, what it's all about. And it was such a blast chatting about kind of how to do it, steps to take, and hearing about your interest in giving it a try, which you've now done. But I'd love to hear just really quickly the story of how you found out about vegan living and why you decided to give it a try.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having us on. So it all came about of myself, Ollie, and Liam. We've got our own podcast called Two Guys, One Topic. And each week we take a topic that we probably don't know very much about or you think you've heard about, and we just want to explore it in a lot more detail. And one of our weeks, the choice was veganism. And that's how we got into it, wasn't it, Liam?
Yeah, exactly. So we then spent a week reading about it, researching about it, learning basically everything there is to know, or that we thought we could know about veganism. And you know, the more we read about it, the more we researched it, the more we sort of felt like maybe this is something we could give it a go. You know, we spoke to Michelle and we said, you know, the more you sort of peel back the layers, the more you realise actually maybe I should do this. And we sort of jokingly said, well, we'll give it a go. And then you can have a chat with us about our experience. And then here we are.
Yeah, Michelle, you were our topic expert, weren't you? And one of the things that we enjoyed about speaking with you as well is just your more so relaxed approach to veganism, as in how important it is, but not coming across as preachy or whatever. And yeah, like Liam said, it made us want to give it a go. So here we are today.
That's awesome. Yeah, Michelle is really, really welcoming and inclusive and inspires so many people to want to explore. Even the most, like the biggest skeptics, naysayers. We had a friend on our podcast who one time even put meat in Michelle's face, and she's still friends with him, and now he's a vegan. So she's doing something right. I'm really curious, of all of the things that you explored, what is it that really called to you? Is it the environmental impacts, the animal welfare, the health aspect?
For me, it was the environmental stuff. It was not so much the killing, I guess, of animals, but like the facts, like, what was it, Ollie? It was something like 70% of all farmland is only, you're only growing crops to feed animals that we then kill. It boggled my mind, stuff like that. And the amount of greenhouse emissions that all of the animals give out is like equivalent to every car and train and plane. And just some of those numbers were just mind-boggling, and you can't ignore it. And I mean, that's what really got it for me. What about you, Ollie?
For me, it was much more the health benefit side of it. So I'd listened to a previous podcast of yourselves and the Netflix one about game changers that you'd mentioned, and just how you've got these super high-end athletes who rely on a plant-based diet who are performing maybe better than what they've ever previously done. Liam and I, we're both runners, and I'd had an injury on my on one of my knees, and so just thinking maybe changing my diet would also then help. And then as we got into it more and more, reading about the environmental impact and all the other parts, it just seemed to make logical sense to switch my diet. And really, I don't need to be eating any meat.
It's so cool to see such different reasons drawing you in. But then once you're there, you have all these other positive benefits at the same time. Like maybe animals aren't your passion, but just by default, by doing something to help your health and to help the environment, you're also saving lives. So That's pretty cool. I'm curious how much you knew already when you went into this. It seems like, well, it's hard for Tony and I to know because our heads are in this space all the time for decades. So we know all the information. We see it everywhere in our circles. But I'm wondering how much it's just getting out to the mainstream, to normal people. Like, what were you already aware of and what was brand new to you?
So there was something shortly before we did our topic on veganism. And I don't know if this is the best example, but Liam and I, we were out in London and we stopped to have a McDonald's. And there was the McPlant burger. And I said to Liam, I'm going to give that a try, see what it's like. And I couldn't tell the difference. So from a food point of view, you know, I quite like my food. I'm quite happy on trying new things and seeing what they taste like. And I was pleasantly surprised. And I think I was pleasantly surprised because I'd been scarred from 15 years ago of trying just vegetarian sausages, and they seem to taste like cardboard. But it obviously, evidently now, the food has come on leaps and bounds from where it was then, and it's really tricky to tell the difference.
It's also everywhere, isn't it? I found it so easy because it doesn't seem to matter what supermarket you go in. You can get vegan versions of everything, and it just seemed so simple to do. I'd never tried it, but it's always in your eye line, isn't it? As you're going shopping, it's always like, get this, and I never did. But having done so, I found it. Yeah, I thought it was great. I thought it was dead easy, and here we are.
And just coming back to Michelle about your inclusiveness, was sometimes it has felt, when I've thought about this as a topic or a way of living previously, people can come across as quite preachy. But yeah, that absolutely wasn't the case with yourself. And then just being, so inclusive just helped us along the way.
Oh, that makes my heart happy to hear. We've seen lots of instances where people go vegan and then they just, it feels like too much pressure. They're getting pressure from other people, and that's their reason for going back. Even though they're feeling better and all the things, it's just that word can come with a lot around it. So to take that pressure off, you can make a ton of change and a big impact, and it's all positive when you step in and just like enjoy the process and try the new products at the store. That is so cool.
I think it's also hard to carry everyone else's expectations. Like, we had a friend who tried plant-based eating, and he never said, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. I'm just going to try it out. And everyone who knew him who was vegan and more, I wouldn't say militant, but just really, really passionate about it, had these expectations for him, like, oh, he's going to love it. He's going to stay vegan forever. He already is seeing the changes. And that's a lot of pressure to put on someone, that they can't make a mistake, or if they eat something, even by accident, because they didn't know that it had gelatin or chicken broth or whatever. Like, that's a lot to put on someone. And I can see how it's easier to just say, you know what, I'm going to put my hands up because this is too much for me. All I wanted to do is try this out.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. Okay. So as you're researching, how much of the like environmental and animal ethic side of it did you know already? Or was most of that new to you?
Yeah, next to nothing. I genuinely blow my mind finding out most of that stuff. Things like the amount of water that a cow drinks. Stuff that you would never ever know is a thing. None of it, I don't think. But hopefully on our podcast, hopefully we got it across. Like we said when we spoke to you, just as more and more people are talking about it, you just try and change a few people's opinions, or just share that knowledge with just a few other people, then more people are going to learn about it. But I don't think we knew next to anything, did we, Ollie?
No, same here.
Wow, that is amazing. It's definitely encouraging to keep doing the work, to just kind of like put information out there so people can find it and learn themselves. Because you see so often when people do learn, like, really, human beings are good people. We want to be doing the best that we can. And if there's options there that are healthier and that taste the same, or that are, just better for our world, most people will take those. So that's great to hear and to see such rapid action. Okay. So before we jump into like really your experience and how it's been, this is now 6 weeks, right? After you started?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. The way that we usually do this podcast is we start with a little bit of backstory and history of like what your eating life was like before this. So growing up, clearly you guys like fast food, McDonald's. What types of food were you eating, and how was that transition over to the food that you're eating now?
Ollie, you can go first.
Yeah, I would probably say that I had meat with every meal. I almost had that, that fallacy of that mindset that it wouldn't be tasty unless there was some meat in there. So I was a heavy meat eater. I know I was. And I liked, good old British fry-ups that we'd have even for breakfast. And yeah, I would have a lot of meat previously.
I don't think I really did. I eat lots of pasta and rice. We quite often have pasta in different sauces and things like that. So, I did eat sausages and burgers and pizza from time to time, but generally, I'm not. I didn't quite eat as much meat as Ollie does. I do drink a lot of milk. I go to the gym a lot. I have a lot of protein shakes. That was a concern, but otherwise, no, not a lot of meat really. So I thought ahead of time that I think this is probably a little bit more doable for me because of the way I eat anyway.
What about cheese for you, Liam?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, actually, that's quite major, actually. I do eat a cheese sandwich pretty much every day. So I don't know how I've managed to forget that one. But yeah, other than that, I don't really eat masses of meat. No.
I love this because when we were talking on your podcast and you were both thinking of giving it a try, we talked about different approaches to how you can step into plant-based eating. And you had talked about giving it a try for a month and you were thinking, I think, about Veganuary, but you ended up starting sooner. But you both took very different approaches. Like you can jump in all at once or you can go in stages. And Liam, I remember you being more hesitant. So even though it feels like it was less of a change, you seem like a little bit more cautious to step in slowly. Can you talk each one of you about the approach that you took and how that was? Would you recommend it? Did you like it? Do you wish you had tried it a different way?
Okay, so I went with a step-by-step approach, and I teach maths as a job, and I sort of quite analytical. I was like, right, here's what I'm going to do. Job one, I'm going to sort out what I have for breakfast, and I'm just going to make that vegan. So job one was to just switch out milk. So I swapped out my milk for almond milk, and I liked it immediately. I put it on some cereal while we were watching telly with my wife, and she said, you're going to love this, and I liked it straight away. So I remember, Michelle, you saying some people have to mix milk, and you might try a little half and half till you get used to it. I did not have that problem. Loved it immediately. Phase two, week two, was to switch out cheese, which is a bit of a big deal, as we said. I was a bit worried. I wouldn't, I've eaten cheese every day of my life probably for 30 something years. But again, I couldn't really taste much difference, if I'm honest. I swapped the cheese out in my sandwiches. My crisps were already vegan. So that was my lunch and my breakfast sorted. Week three, I went with changing all my snacks. So all the things I eat around the day. So that's quite easy to do, I found. You could go into a supermarket and there'd be, loads of vegan snacks. Just switch out cereal bars for vegan ones. I swapped my protein for some vegan protein, which again, I could hardly tell the difference. So at 3 weeks, that meant my breakfast and my lunch and all my other snacks were vegan. And then on the fourth week, I went with, right, I'm going to swap all of the things I eat at tea time, my final meal of the day. That was a bit harder because I had to sort of get my wife to agree to do it with me as well. But again, because we eat lots of pasta and rice and grains and things, didn't really find it too difficult. But yeah, I found step by step really, really straightforward, and it gave me something to focus on. Each week was just a new thing to focus on until eventually there was nothing left.
Yeah, and for me, just the way that my brain works, I suppose, rather than having that gradual process, I just thought I'm going to jump in with 2 feet and just change my diet on the spot. So that's exactly what I did. And actually, it went a lot better than what I thought it would do. So yeah, straight away, I have oat milk. So I quite like oat milk, it turns out. I made that switch pretty easily. And then it would just be thinking about whatever I would be having for lunch, just making that a vegan alternative. Or I found myself eating much more fruit as well as my snacks. And in general, it's been a health benefit overall. Like, I think my insides feel healthier, which is a bit of a strange thing to say, but I feel good for it, and I think it's actually been a change that I'm going to carry on with for the long term. I think, having made that jump, it's a bit of an uphill learning path to begin with, having to switch out everything all at once. It didn't quite feel overwhelmed by it, but for me, it was just easier to make that entire switch rather than doing bits and pieces along the way.
That is so awesome to hear that you're considering doing this long term. And these approaches sound similar to the journeys that Michelle and I had. She went all in right away, and I went more gradual, but instead of over a week, it took me years. And I think that for anyone listening, there are a lot of different approaches, and they each could be good for you. I think it's trying it out, seeing what works. For me, I tried to go all in right away, and I kept on making mistakes over and over and over, and it was discouraging. So when I switched up my expectations for myself, it made it more manageable to be gradual and to think about it as a long-term goal rather than a short-term one.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in hearing why vegan right now. What got you thinking about eating plant-based or learning more about plant-based and meeting Michelle? How did you at this time find this information interesting and helpful?
It was all because of our podcast and learning about a different topic each week. So we knew we knew the high level of what vegan meant and what veganism was. We weren't so quite well clued up about the whole lifestyle. We thought it was more diet-based. And it was then when we got into it and started to scratch beneath the surface and understand more about its origins and where it came from, that you start to just learn a little bit more and think, actually, do I really need to have meat or animal products as part of my everyday life? And Liam and I sort of came to the conclusion that no, you don't really. And let's see if we can get some of these other benefits that come from having a plant-based and vegan way of living.
Yeah, we try and pick topics, don't we, Ollie, that you'll have heard of, or that maybe are a bit relevant in the now at the time. And it just felt like veganism and being vegan was becoming more mainstream, and you seem to hear and see it a lot more. But we didn't know anything about it, and then it's just straight off the back of that we then researched all about it. We then spoke to Michelle, and by exactly like you said, by scratching underneath that surface a little bit and actually learning about veganism, made us want to do it.
That is so cool. I am super eager to hear about the struggles that you both faced. One of the things that we try and dig into on this podcast is the hardships and difficult situations and maybe challenges that people go through as they're trying to step into plant-based living, or as they're living as a longtime vegan even, and then how to overcome those. So it's so great hearing at the end of the 6 weeks, oh, you're feeling good, you're loving it. But along the way, I'm sure there were bumps or things that you encountered or things that you ate you didn't realize were vegan. Do you have any of those stories you'd like to share?
Go on, Ollie. You go first.
So for me, probably the toughest part of it has been letting my mum know and my mother-in-law know that with Christmas coming up, that I've changed my diet, which has been quite funny. How long are you going to be doing this for? Yeah, we understand that you're doing this, but yeah, really, how, what about Christmas? And I've just said to them, it's something that I really like the idea of it, and had to have a few difficult conversations with a couple of other different people where you mention it to them and they start to question why you're doing it, or what about missing out on some of the deficiencies in your diet. Surely you're not getting any protein anymore. And yourselves did a great podcast that Liam and I listened to as part of our research for doing our podcast back in April, about some of those questions where people ask you, or they have reasons for you not to be vegan almost. And that was really useful. So it's just that whole thing of just slightly educating people that there are lots of benefits. It's not just a health thing, there's a planet thing. But I think a struggle I had at home is that I haven't changed all of my family's diet overnight. So I changed mine overnight, but I like to cook. I do the cooking at home quite regularly. So I'd maybe been making things for my family which weren't plant-based to begin with, and just needing to remind myself as I cook, or not to just be trying things along the way, or have a little bit of a snack, or just pick up a sausage and eat the sausage once it's cold or left over or whatever. So I just had to be mindful the whole time, but I feel like I've made that adjustment now.
The thing I found most difficult is it's the cost. I found I'm not a fantastic cook, and I found that I tend to cook things that are pre-made, not necessarily microwave meal, but maybe like a pre-made burger or something like that. And I just found that buying some of those things is a bit more expensive, and vegan cheese is more expensive than normal cheese, and I just felt financially it was a bit more costly, and I had to weigh up, in my own mind, like, is it how much? I think, Michelle, you told us about your why. Like, you've got to really remember what your why is, and I had to really remind myself a few times, like, I'm doing this because I know how bad this stuff is for the environment, and I know that I need to do something about it. And fortunately, I can afford to do so. But just for a little while, for the first few weeks, for certain, it was a bit difficult to get my head around the fact that it was costing me just, not masses and masses more money, but definitely a noticeable amount more money than perhaps I'd expected it to be. But over time, I've gotten better at cooking and, buying those vegetables and eating more fruit. There's plenty of ways that it doesn't have to be expensive. But yeah, I guess that for me, that would be my number one sort of hardship, but it's not the worst thing in the world.
Oh, Liam, I am here for you.
I hear you've got a book, don't you?
Yes,
you've got a book all about eating cheap.
My whole brand is called Plant-Based on a Budget. It's what I've been doing for almost 10 years now, helping people save money on plant-based eating. So I've got you covered. Michelle and I have a really great resource called the Plant-Based on a Budget meal plan. I'm going to send that to you right after this call, and we're going to hook you up. So that will hopefully ease some of the tension that you're feeling with eating plant-based. And then, Ollie, you said a couple things that really resonated with me, because I remember on 2 instances. One, I was a nanny when I became plant-based, and I was making a turkey sandwich. And it's so easy to forget and try what you're eating. And I had just decided to be vegetarian at the time. And I was making this sandwich, and I ate part of the sandwich. Was like, no, I ate the turkey sandwich. And then the second one is that for Christmas, the very first year I became plant-based, my aunt went out of her way and made a lot of food for me to freeze as a Christmas gift. And part of them were these Mexican meatballs. And she made them vegetarian, but used a brand that had eggs in them. And I had to make the choice to accept the gift, and I ate them. And that was a choice I made. Not everyone would make that choice, but at that time, new in my vegan journey, that was the choice I made to respect my aunt. And also, they were free to me. The damage had been done, that they were purchased, they were in a meal. And so I ate them. But I feel like these are experiences that people face around the holidays, around sharing food. And actually, that's something else Michelle and I really, really focus on. And we even wrote the Friendly Vegan Cookbook specifically for this issue, is that sharing food is such an important part of our culture, of our human experience. And I hope to see more resources that show how to make that easier for people.
I found that generally, something sort of Ollie said there, like, your friends, if they're really your friends, they are supportive and they do back you up. And me and Ollie just totally by coincidence went to it's my nephew's birthday party yesterday. So my brother had put on a spread of food. Now, he knew that me and Ollie are going through this journey, and he prepared a whole bunch of vegan stuff for us, and there was other people there. But, everyone's trying it. My mum was there, and she said, what's the vegan sausages? I'll try this. Oh, it tastes like a normal sausage. I've certainly found that anyone who is not supportive of you, I found very few of those, because generally my mates and everybody I hang around with, they're on my side.
That is so, so sweet. I always, to this day, I step into any situation that's like an unknown. So you're going to someone else's party or a wedding or whatever, and I expect nothing. So bring my own dish or have a meal before I go, or pack some energy bars just in case. Like, expect nothing, and it is just a warm, fuzzy, amazing surprise when someone really does go above and beyond and takes into consideration the way that you're eating and prepare something special. And I do find that happens a lot. It's never expected, and it's always just like, oh my gosh. But Tony and I did a podcast episode bringing on our sort of parents, our family, and how they responded when we first came home, being like, so we're vegan now and we're doing holidays different and everything. And both of us had really, we were very lucky. We had just very good experiences where our family mostly supported us. But I know for a lot of people, it's very challenging and they don't have that support and they feel very alone at the table and they don't have food to eat and they're hungry. So wherever you fall on that, it is like the holiday season is part of the vegan experience, and it passes, and you can do a lot by preparing, learning how to bake and cooking yummy, amazing food on your own. So you don't have to feel like you're missing out on like those holiday favorites. And then, just coming in with no expectations.
We also have a lot of resources if you do have family who might challenge you at the table or not know what to do for you. That it can be tricky and it can feel overwhelming, especially if you're trying to figure out your why still. Michelle made a great point on your podcast, which is the why. And if you have all these challenges and you don't really feel super committed, it's easy to feel that pressure.
When someone's like, just try this, just eat this. Why won't you just have this one meal? No big deal.
It's Christmas. Come on.
Yes.
And so, aside from your family at large and holidays, how's your family at home responding? Maybe your partners or kids, if you have them, how are they supporting you, if at all?
So I've got a little boy who's 4 and he's a little sponge, and like when they're that age, they just do anything you say pretty much. And he all the time, Daddy, you won't even believe these meatballs are vegan. They are. You won't even be able to tell the difference. And just he's in it with me, and he's taking part. My daughter's 2, so she knows even less. But like just bringing him along with us on this journey, and it just makes things so much easier. I found he's super supportive, but mainly because he's my little boy, and he will be. But I found my family have helped out enormously, and my wife does most of the cooking as well. So if she's not on board, I would be in trouble.
Oh, that is so sweet. I love that your little ones are jumping at it. I have a almost 2-year-old, and he has so much fun in the kitchen. We've started baking together, and he's not to the point where we're talking about these things. Like, he doesn't know anything different, but just that I'm like introducing him to cool vegetables or like just plant-based foods that I think a lot of people don't see while they're growing up, or even growing food. I've started gardening and growing food and bringing kids into that process where they can actually pick tomatoes off of pick tomatoes themselves or pick their lettuce. All those kinds of things is such a cool experience for kids. They're starting to incorporate that into schools, which is really nice. But that's so cool.
For me, I've maybe done it a little bit more under the radar with my children. So I've got a 5 and a 3-year-old. And so tonight we had spaghetti bolognese with a bolognese sauce. It was all entirely vegan, and they ate it. They loved it. But, going back 6 weeks ago, it would have been a meat-based version of it. Whereas today they ate it, and there were clean plates at the end. They didn't know. So I've just maybe not been as obvious with my little ones in doing it. My wife, she enjoys the food that we've been making and trying. It's been quite fun trying to try out the vegan versions of things that we would typically eat, and it's normally small changes. It's just small changes of a few ingredients here or there that will then make you end up with pretty much the same meal that you had before. but you obviously know that it's completely plant-based.
That's amazing. Well, do either of you have any tips to share based on your experience? And then can you also just share like a little bit about how you're feeling going forward? If you feel inspired or just want to sort of integrate some things, where do you stand now?
I definitely see this as something which I'm going to carry on doing for the long term. It's one of those things where I feel like I've put the effort and the work in to learn about it and to make those switches and those lifestyle changes, that it's something that I'll just be able to keep up with and to carry on doing. Definitely feel excited about it going forwards. There's even, it's just getting out there, and there's more options for it. So it was my wife's birthday the other day, and I took her for afternoon tea in London near Buckingham Palace. And the afternoon tea, there was an option there, which was a vegan option, which I don't know if I would have taken notice of it previously, but now I'm looking for the vegan options. Things are all around. I imagine for Liam and I, it's been much easier than it was for yourselves doing it 10 years ago. It seems so much more mainstream now and so much more out there that it's I imagine a lot more straightforward for us and for people to be making that switch nowadays compared to what it was for you.
I totally agree with that, Ollie. Like the very first time I was doing anything, my wife was doing the online shopping, and then she passed me the app and she said, "Do you want to get, what do you want to get for vegan? You search vegan. There's everything. There's literally everything that we ever eat. There's a vegan version of it." Yeah, I thought it just makes it so easy. But my tip would be, and Michelle said it and I've mentioned it, is to really know your why. Why are you doing this? What is your reason for it? Keep that in the back of your mind. If you're in a situation that you can't find a vegan option, or there's a bit of pressure for you to, eat something that isn't vegan, just remember why you're doing it, and it makes it so much easier. As long as you know why. Mine was environmentally. I was all about the environment, and it just, as long as it's in your head all the time, I just found it really, really easy. And also doing it in steps. I'm a massive I didn't try it Ollie's way. Don't know if I would have been able to do it that way, but as I said, I'm a huge advocate of doing it in stages. Just choose one thing and eliminate. And Michelle said when she spoke to us on our podcast, even if that's the only thing you do, if you switch out all your milk, you are going to make a difference. And then slowly catch your monkey. You start changing out things until before you know it, you haven't got anything left that isn't vegan.
I think Michelle said about meat-free Mondays as well as a starter, which makes complete sense. Yeah, start small, but for me, I just thought I'm going to jump 2 feet in and go for it.
There's a funny story that you reminded me of, Ollie, when we were hanging out with Michelle's birth father, Greg. We went to eat pizza one time, and it was one of those pizza places where you got to see all the topics and then you tell them which ones you want on there. And they didn't have any vegan cheese. And he was like, "What?" But they had vegan meat. Yeah, they had vegan meat. They had vegan meat. They had all the delicious vegetables. He was like, "What?
Okay.
They don't have vegan cheese here?" And Michelle and I were like, that's really sweet. Like these vegans today, like before you would get sauce and some vegetables. Michelle and I don't even eat mushrooms. So we wouldn't even have mushrooms, which for that meaty texture. And so, yes, vegans today, or aspiring vegans, or people who are lactose intolerant, or just, it is so much easier today. And the options available are so much better than they were 15 years ago when we started down this journey. And I am really, really excited that you both are feeling the positives and are overcoming the obstacles with such grace and seemingly ease. It seems like you both are really just fitting in nicely, and I'm proud of you guys. I also had one more question about resources. You said you were really digging in to vegan living when you started researching, and I'm wondering if you came across any that you thought, "Wow, this is what I feel inspired by," and if you could share those with our audience so they can be inspired too.
There was one, I think, for both Liam and I, which isn't quite inspirational, but was a bit of a surprise to us. So we used we used your website as well as we were using the Vegan Society's website. And one of the things they talked about in the wider way of living was not going to sports events that involve animals, such as horse racing or greyhound racing, or going to zoos. And that was one of the things that we hadn't really thought about, had we, Liam, in terms of the lifestyle part of it. And then just taking into account, medicine and just that whole part of doing what is practically possible was something that I think Liam and I both resonated with, as saying, do it as much as you can, but where practically possible. I think in just knowing that, medicine and what have you can be tested on animals, but it's more important that you take your medicine than not take it. But anything that was inspiring for you, Liam?
No, just what you were saying, like as far as a resource, the Vegan Society, their website we found was fantastic. Generally speaking, though, we just sort of Google and watch YouTube videos and things, and there's just so much out there. To nail it down to one thing is pretty difficult. But I mean, when we started researching, I don't think it took 5 minutes before we started getting our minds blown by just exactly how important it all is. But as far as a single resource, the Vegan Society, we found that was a really good resource. Their website was really good. Lots of Q&As on it. It answered lots of questions quite clearly and cleanly. But other than that, just pick your phone up and Google it. What is vegan? Why should I be vegan? You'll find the answer out in about 3 seconds.
On our podcast, we try and do a takeaway. So every week we'll maybe share something that has surprised us or shocked us most that week, and something that maybe people will remember when they're then sharing knowledge about that topic with their friends at a later date. And I remember Liam's one from the episode was all around the amount of animals that unfortunately get slaughtered. And if humans were killed off at the same rate of animals, that the UK would run out of its population within 11 minutes. So it's those mind-blowing type of facts that were coming out, that we were thinking, wow, there's got to be a better way of going about what we're doing, and let's give this veganism a try.
Whew, I feel like I've heard it all and learned it all, but that still shocks me. Like hearing it put in new ways where you can really wrap your brain around the magnitude of suffering that's happening in our normal food industry. Thank you both so much for sharing. This has been amazing. I definitely encourage everyone to check out your podcast, Two Guys, One Topic podcast, and we will definitely link it in the show notes below. In the show notes at plantpoweredpodcast.com. I would love to hear from you. Both Tony and I, we're always also looking at ways in our lives that we can improve as human beings. And you've both explored in depth so much that we probably haven't had time to look into. So are there any topics that you would recommend for us and our listeners to dig into that maybe they'll learn something new, life-changing, potentially life-saving?
We've done so many. We did an episode on not necessarily life-changing, but famous pieces of art, and just digging into why what's so good about the Mona Lisa and the Last Supper, and off the back of that, we interviewed an art critic at the Sunday Times newspaper, and just I thought that episode was blew my mind as well. I don't know, Ollie, have you had a favourite episode we've done?
There was one where we try and simplify a very complicated topic, and one of them was cryptocurrency.
Oh yeah.
so that was a mind-boggling topic and very complicated, but we managed to distill that down and share the best information. We've had some really interesting ones, such as the Guinness World Records or Michelin stars, and just how they originated. They're things, people have heard of Michelin star restaurants or the Guinness Book of Records, but how did they even come about? And both of those stories are quite intriguing. So, they were some of my favorites.
Oh, we'll definitely have to check those out. And again, we're going to link your podcast, and also, how can people find you if they want to find you on social media?
It is super easy. So we're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and we're at 2 Guys, 1 Topic. So that's TWO, guys, ONE, topic. 2 Guys, 1 Topic.
Great. We'll also include that. Thank you again so much for coming on our podcast and sharing your journey. And I know our audience will be very inspired. So many people who listen are also just stepping into plant-based living. So to hear your obstacles specifically and how you've overcome them, I'm sure is going to be really inspiring.
Thank you so much for having us. Yeah,
Thanks
we highly recommend it.
Awesome. Thank you both. And you're going to have to eat some amazing food in London because I know there's so many awesome spots and I can't wait to make it there one day.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, I want to give you all one last reminder to check out our sponsors of this episode, Gaiam, the makers of the best, most beautiful, awesome yoga, fitness, meditation, and other just wellness things to help you along your fitness journey. And you can find them at Gaiam.com, GAIAM.com. And also don't forget to check out Caraway. If you could use some better pots and pans and bakeware, check them out at carawayhome.com/plant-powered kitchen, or just use the code plant-powered kitchen at checkout and we'll include the links to everything in the show notes. Thank you so much to both of our sponsors.
Oh my gosh, I loved talking to them, especially with hearing all of their super UK words like telly and tea time. And I don't know, they were just so fun to talk to. And I am really excited that they've had this experience. They seem to be really motivated and grounded in their choices. And that's a good place to begin this journey.
Yeah, it's kind of funny when we planned this podcast, it was when they were first stepping into it. And so today before the call, we're like, what if they hated it? What if they're like, never again? This vegan thing was awful. So yeah, this was like a very unstaged, very positive experience, which is always so nice to hear. And hopefully it's inspiring for many of you. As we mentioned in the episode, if any of you are looking for support in the recipe department, especially food to share, definitely check out our cookbook, the Friendly Vegan Cookbook. We will link that over in the show notes. And then if you are struggling with budget or you just want to save some money or you feel like, you've been leaning a little too heavily on the processed foods, which can bring up higher at the grocery store, please check out our meal plans at plantbasedmealplan.com. Hopefully that will help you out. We show you how you can sort of hack the grocery store and cook a week's worth of food for as little as $25 entire week. So that's really great. And then as always, if you want to support the show,
you can check us out at patreon.com/plantpoweredpeople. And we so appreciate it. Every time we get an email, even if it's for $1, it really just makes our hearts so warm and full. So thank you so much and hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.